All right, y'all. So I went into this show with moderate expectations. I was also paying attention to what some people were saying. Like, I guess they were comparing the show with the spectacle of the movies, and they were just like, if y'all going into it expecting that, it's not going to be that. And I'm just like, okay. So I watched the first episode. I'm just like, I really love the show. I really like the show. I really think people are expecting, sandworms to be popping out of the ground and explosions to be going off at the very beginning of a political show, like a political thriller kind of show. I don't know. I really like the show. So I don't know what them people were talking about. Let's get into it. I want to see what y'all thought of it. We're going to break down the episode. Now, real quick, I am not a book person when it comes to Dune. I am not a book person, so I don't know, all the deep lore. But, I do look up some things, but I haven't, I'm just watching the Dune TV show, okay? Just get that out the way for people who might have been looking for that. This is not a channel for that. So sorry. But we're gonna have some fun. We always have fun with these reactions / recaps, whatever you want to call it. So let's get into it. Now, I think it was so smart for the show to center itself around the earlier days of House Harkonnen and House Atreides, right? Because clearly people are going to be thinking about the movies when they think about Dune. So it was fun, or books obviously, but the movies. So it's fun to go back in time and see what House Harkonnen and Atreides were doing during this time period. The quotes here, we see as the show got started: victory is celebrated in the light, but it is won in the darkness. And also, what holds more truth, history or prophecy? I really love both these quotes, especially the first one, where victory is celebrated in the light, but it is won in the darkness. Because everybody's having these public in politics, in government, in society, everybody has these public declarations, public celebrations. But meanwhile, in private, how power is exchanged and taken and given. You know what I mean? It's just all that is darkness is involved in all of that. Okay, so the intro is Valya Harkonnen talking about how the humans were led to victory over the thinking machines by Atreides. She goes into detail about how her great-grandfather deserted the fight, and because of that, when the war ended and all the thinking technology was banned, House Harkonnen was obviously branded as cowards, and they were banished to a desolate world. By the way, just real quick, I had in my notes here, the music is so good. I love the music so much. And the visuals, it's so great. It's a delicious show visually and sonically to consume, to digest. But Valya is saying, even though everyone who shared her blood had to also live in that shame of House Harkonnen, right, branded as cowards, she's saying that the histories spun by House Atreides were lies, right? Then we see a young Valya show up, right? I like that we got the history of her house like this, where they were branded as cowards and banished, because it reminds me of the House Lannister lore from A Song of Ice and Fire / Game of Thrones. Part of the reason why Lord Tywin Lannister was so heartless and nasty and cruel was because his father, who ruled before him, Lord Tytos, was considered weak and mocked by his own bannermen. He was apparently too kind and indecisive, which left House Lannister vulnerable. Tywin grew up seeing that and strove to be the exact opposite. So I like it. It makes sense that Valya has this vicious, undying dedication, especially when she's trying to improve House Harkonnen's standing in the world, or at least her own standing in the world, because of what House Harkonnen was branded as, right? So Valya said she met her true family and her true mother with the Bene Gesserit, Mother Superior Raquella. She was the first one of the Bene Gesserit. And no shade, absolutely no shade, but can we get my sis some sunscreen or some retinol or something? I feel like they obviously tried to make a younger actress look older. And honestly, I wish that they would have just hired a much older person, although, I could be wrong about this, but to me, it just seems like this is a younger actress that they tried to make older. Anyway, Mother Superior was a hero during the wars against the thinking machines. We learned that she trained the Bene Gesserit as truth sayers, assigned to the great houses to help them sift truth from lies. And so you can see how the organization started as this, we're just trying to help we're trying to help the houses. And then it obviously evolves from there. I'm sure people like Dorothea would argue that it devolved, that the organization devolved from there. But Raquel wanted to breed better leaders, so she amassed a vast genetic archive to foster the right royal unions to cultivate rulers that they could control. But not all the members of the Bene Gesserit thought that doing this was right. They thought it was blasphemous. I'm looking at you, Miss Mamas, Dorothea. Dorothea was sitting by Miss Mama's deathbed here, like, hey, sus, don't you want to see me, sis? I'm here. Mother Superior looked at Dorothea like, girl, if you don't get out my face, where's Valya? She looked at her like, sis, I know you ain't all up in my face, breathing all down my neck. I'm literally about to pass away. Like, could you back up? Where's Valya? Obviously, Dorothea is mad because, hopefully I'm saying her name right. Dorothea is mad because Valya is her op. But hey, this is Mother Superior. You can't say no. So they're over here speaking in tongues over this water bucket. When they call Valya, like, sis, mama want to talk to you. So Valya gets up to go, but not before she tells her little sister to wait here. And that's exactly what she does. Woo, child, I'll be wanting Tula to stand up. I'll be wanting her sister to stand up, girl. Girl, get up. Please. Anyway, Valya walks into the prayer meeting like, okay, girl, y'all in here praying with all this humming and singing. I thought that y'all was in here having choir rehearsal, but you mean to tell me that y'all are in here praying? She throws down their little Bible things and said, these prayers aren't going to help her. I was like, oh, that's why mother called you, honey. That's why she called Valya. She wants a force like that to guide the Bene Gesserit. Anyway, as soon as Valya gets there, Mother Superior starts hyperventilating, child. She talking about red dust. Like, girl, somebody got to do some dusting around here. She about to sneeze or something. Red dust. It's coming. Tiran Arafel. And this phrase obviously refers to a reckoning in the form of a holy judgment brought on by a tyrant. That tyrant, we can presume, is Paul Atreides, right? Am I getting that right? Then she has a bunch of visions, worms swallowing stuff up. I mean, I think swallowing up the Bene Gesserit homes, their stronghold, essentially, I think. Swallowing stuff up, stuff burning up, like all that stuff. But before she dies, Mother Superior tells Valya to get the Bene Gesserit together, get their wigs together, make sure that their hairline's straight, make sure that make sure that their wig ain't crooked, falling off. Like, girl, make sure they faces beat. Like she said, strengthen them, or it will all fall. You will be the one to see the burning truth and know. And so, like, you told this zealot Valya, I mean, your deathbed prophecies and wishes, like, of course Valya is going to go off the deep end. like, what do you mean? Dorothea is looking like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. Valya's talking to her group afterwards, right? Like, we got to prepare. Like, this warning is crazy. And they're asking her how they could possibly prepare. And Valya's like, well, what we need to do? Valya's like, girl, we got to put one of ours on the throne, a sister. And they were like, child, Dorothea, girl, she stand up every week at testimony and she rants and raves and she against all this kind of stuff. Like, girl, she ain't she ain't gonna be here for this. She would never agree for this. And Valya was like, well, guess what, mama? I don't care. She gonna have to. So they wrap Mother Raquel up in toilet paper like she's somebody's mommy. And at the funeral, there is clearly a divide, those who stand with Valya and those who stand with Dorothea. Dorothea and her followers were like, obviously reciting their commandments, essentially. Humility is the foundation of our virtues. The mind of man is holy. Thou shalt not disguise the soul. So they're just like, y'all are over here trying to give somebody CIA. Like, y'all are over here messing with people's minds, trying to take over the Imperium. That's not what we're supposed to do. I love the imagery of the vultures circling above. I thought that was so apt, right? And then Dorothea came for the breeding index to return the sisterhood back to its values, as she says. She said that we are meant to guide the Imperium, not rule it. And Valya's like, girl, you're doing way too much. Valya's like, girl, you're doing way too much. You're going to be our destruction. Mother said that we should use every tool to protect the Bene Gesserit. And Dorothea was like, girl, I just didn't want to stress that old lady out on her deathbed. Like, I didn't want to stress Granny out like that. But honestly, what y'all are planning is heresy. I won't allow it. We cannot play God. I honor my grandmother, a.k.a. the Mother Superior. So that added another layer of things like, oh my goodness, you calling for Valya when you calling for Valya on your deathbed when I'm your granddaughter. But either way, She said, I honor my grandmother, but this great work of hers must be destroyed. And that's when Valya was like, actually, guess what? It won't be. Valya told Miss Mamas, girl, turn around now. Girl, Dorothea is over here gagging. Like, she's gags. But stops in her tracks and turns around just as requested, like she ain't had no choice. Dorothea does not know what's going on. It seems like this is one of the first major uses of the voice because Valya says it's a new skill that she's been honing. Valya offers Dorothea one more chance to bend the knee, but of course she does not take it. So Valya tells her to take out that pocket knife and shove it in her throat. And Carol said, "Girl, she does." I'm gagging. That was such a great first major use of the voice, especially when it comes to the show. Like, it was great. It was great. The first usage of her is Valya just turning the Bene Gesserit into what it has evolved into basically today. I mean, present day, you know, in the Dune series where we are in the movie so far. When I say today, not the books. Valya said that she knew when she killed Dorothea that her name would be forever damned to the wrong side of history. She said, but my truth lay in prophecy, obviously tying back to the quote in the beginning of the episode. What holds more truth, history or prophecy? Okay, so we jump 30 years. Now we are 116 years after the end of the Great Machine Wars and 10,000 years before the birth of Paul Atreides. Now we see that the Bene Gesserit have developed even further. Certain houses are asking for truth sayers. We find out she said that Valya said no to House Harkonnen like 3 times already. She says no for a 4th. And I wonder what the story is behind that, or like more of the story is behind that. Then we get to see the princess's fine half-brother. Apparently, the princess is coming to learn to be Bene Gesserit. The students are lusting after him, and I get it. He came in there trying to bully Valya. Like, oh, girl, my sister ain't going to be chilling in some cubbies and some cubicles, some hostels like you poors do. She going to need her own quarters. And this is the moment to me where the Bene Gesserit really reminded me of the Aes Sedai in the Wheel of Time books / lore, because she said it really doesn't matter if she is a princess or whatever. Everyone who comes here will be treated the same. It gives like Elaine and stuff, you know. He eventually gives in because I think that's how important and powerful the Bene Gesserit are, that the Imperium or whoever royal people would rather have their resources, would rather have the Bene Gesserit's network and advisors over pushing for amenities that they are not offering, right? Like, they would rather just have the Bene Gesserit as a resource than be fighting them at this point. So, you know, the prince signs it, and that's that. So Tula's over here teaching, right? She's talking about how humans lie, but the body's rejected, blah, 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 blah. Then her sister gonna come in her class and say, oh, it's good that y'all know theory, but we're gonna have to test that application pretty soon. By the way, class is dismissed. And let me tell you something. Girl, I don't care if you are the mother superior or whatever. Like, girl, you do not come in my class dismissing it before it's time. I don't care what you're talking about. I don't care what you're talking about. Tula, you, girl, if there is not some epic betrayal of Valya brewing right now, sis, like, you, girl, don't make me mad now, Tula. Coming into I don't care if you the president of the entire universe. Coming into my class, dismissing my class. Girl, get out of my face. Ooh. Valya. Tula, stand up. But yeah, she comes in there to tell Tula that the princess is officially coming to train with the Bene Gesserit. Okay, so next scene. We're off to the home world of the Imperium. This scene was giving me a bit of Teen Wolf and Riverdale. Now, like, I don't know if it's because it was so painfully heterosexual. I don't know. I think this is one of the, like, 2 scenes, and I'll go over the other one later on. But one of the 2 scenes that made me feel like I was watching an angsty teen show. Like, it's not bad because it wasn't the whole entire episode. But yeah, they over here training, I guess. And he over here talking about your eyes, they can lie, but this will tell you where your opponent is heading even before they know. I'm like, boy, get your hand off my chest, boy. corny self. Get your hand off my chest. Anyway, I was just like, oh, brother. And speaking of brother, here comes the princess's brother, Constantine. Of course, his name is Constantine. Obviously very protective over his sister to the point of being corny to me. Like, I don't trust him. I'm sorry. Like, are you protecting her because you care or because you want to control her? The jury's still out. I don't trust Constantine. And y'all can say what y'all want to say. And I know he's protecting her, but still, like, the way that men operate in this society already is, you know, like, I gotta see. I gotta, a few more episodes with Constantine, and then I'm gonna make my decision. Now, House Richesi is that how you pronounce them? House Richesi is sitting with Emperor Corino, discussing the princess's marriage to the Richesi heir. They said once the marriage happens, they will award the king with a fleet of ballista mother ships. But the Duke of Richesi doesn't just want this marriage. He wants to have a wing, an entire wing in the palace for himself, for his house or whatever. Now, I love this scene because it shows how dedicated the sisterhood is to itself, even when they are serving different politicians. Because the Richesi Bene Gesserit says to the Corino one, she says, my Duke aims for Arrakis because he wants to sway the great houses. The Emperor's sister and by sister I mean Bene Gesserit's sister, responds by saying, our priority is this wedding. We will deal with the Duke when it is done. And I love, absolutely love their sign language so much. Because they are over here exchanging books worth of information while these two politicians are talking, thinking that they got their hands on the steering wheel. Meanwhile, it's the Bene Gesserit. Let's get into that. Anyway, girl, so this Duke is still precedent. Girl, I heard how much you lost just this month. You're going to need our fleet. Just give us the wing in the palace. And even though the Emperor knows that this guy is trying to make a fool of him, he goes to speak to his Bene Gesserit advisor and then ends up saying, hey, whatever, we'll do it, fine, whatever. And then the two Bene Gesserit of the different politicians nod at each other. I'm just like, oh yeah, girl, the Bene Gesserit ain't nothing to play with. And we already knew that, but I loved, that's why I think this show would be so cool, because we get to see exactly how they get into it, So we're here with Valya and her students, right? And she says, in front of you are men and women from the imperial prison, thieves and swindlers and con artists. Your task is to demonstrate at the least a rudimentary command over truth saying. I love how this girl here was like, child, y'all brought these peons here when I'm giving Professor X and Jean Grey levels of telepathy. Please, this is the best y'all could do. And Valya was like, you think you hot, don't you? Tell the class why you're here. Then she talks about how she was sold and how she killed her captor and her parents for doing it. But then she laughs and says, oh, the looks on your faces. And I'm like, okay. Everybody else in the class was like, okay. So the princess's mother is helping her get ready for her wedding. And the mother's like, yeah, girl, I didn't know your father either when we got married, but hey, here's the veil and clothes I wore for the wedding. I'm just like, okay, girl, thanks. The princess is like, oh, wait. We find out that her mom doesn't want her to go train with the Bene Gesserit, nor does she like this arrangement, this wedding. And the princess is like, well, girl, why not? I heard my husband to be is charming. And the mom's like, girl, he ain't even left middle school yet. What are you talking about, bro? But then the princess was like, girl, I know, but I would make him younger if I could, because every year that he's not of age is a year I can do what I want to do with this power, essentially, is how I'm interpreting it, right? And I like this because even though it's weird, I like this particular dynamic because usually in stories, it's the parents who are really pushing for arranged marriages, right? And the ones getting married are the ones who don't want it to happen, but the princess is the one going for it, So either way, her mom is like, I see how you're looking at the sword master. You should rule how you want to and marry who you want. And the princess is like, well, I am getting what I want. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it, mama. So the sword master comes up to the emperor and says, hey, guess what? There's a soldier here from Arrakis. He survived. And they're gagging because girl, we didn't expect that. They bring in Desmond Hart, who did 12 tours of Arrakis when few people last more than one, is what the emperor said. Apparently, the truth was that his regiment was wiped out in a Fremen attack. Or at least that's what he was preparing to tell or detail to the emperor. But the Emperor's Bene Gesserit makes Desmond lie. He says that the attack on Arrakis wasn't Fremen, but the Emperor's own allies, and that they stole the payload, I think, right? They stole the stuff. So Kasha lies and says to the Emperor that his story is true, or at least he believes it to be true. And that all this must be an isolated incident. That's the only reason why you weren't notified. But Kasha's over here having visions, honey. That rotting, I did like that rotting pomegranate that she saw, with all the flies buzzing above it, because it was a nice touch, since pomegranate is what the couple getting married, they eat on their wedding day. And then, the sandworm looks like an eye and sand falling down. And Nez, you did it. It was just, it was crazy. I can see why Kasha said, girl, I gotta go. Like, she packed her bags immediately after she had that nightmare and said, girl, I have to go. She says goodbye to the princess, tells her that she always knew that she would lead the Imperium to the future, tells her that she'll be back. Here, this scene, the Emperor is talking to his wife and asks her to stop fighting the wedding because the boy comes with a fleet of fighters which he needs for Arrakis. And she's like, all right, girl, let me just go get dressed. She gonna put on her perfume and stuff. Like, she's like, girl, I done forgot I didn't even put on deodorant, child. We ain't that advanced technologically. She's like, girl, let me just go get ready. She took her hands off of his. She's like, girl, I'm tired of talking to this man. Let me go put on my dress. Let me put on my slip and my shoes, girl, and get out of the house, girl. Let's go. Let's just get this wedding over with. So this scene we saw in the preview, right, where Valya and Tula are going over who to pair with the princess, I think, or something like that. But there's another level of the conversation, right, happening because Tula and Valya are also discussing their favorites. I think Theodosia is Valya's favorite, I think, the black girl, and Leela is Tula's favorite, I think. And Tula likes Leela because she's an empath. Probably the same exact reason why Valya thinks Leela's weak, but Tula is like, don't worry, she'll grow those hard layers like I had to. And I love how this speaks to Valya and Tula's relationship. Valya can't stand what she considers to be weakness, which are personalities like Leela's. I'm sure Tula has an empathetic streak, which Valya also considers to be weakness. But I think that's one of Valya's blind spots, right? And I think that, of course, Valya gonna be consumed with herself and what she believes in, but Tula can see strength where Valya can't possibly fathom it being there, and I think that is going to be one of Valya's serious blind spots that I hope that Tula takes advantage of. Tula said she's young, she's afraid, she's in awe of you, and in time she'll grow all those hard layers that you measure worth by, as I did. And it's just like, oh, I cannot wait to dive into y'all's relationship even more, Valya and Tula. And it seems like we're going to get that based off of the previews that we saw of, because we're going to get more of young Valya. So we find out that the thing that Kasha had to do was to run back to the sisters to tell them, hey, guess what? What I felt, it was no ordinary nightmare. She's like, what if this plan that y'all have causes the very thing we seek to prevent? What if we brought on the reckoning that Raquel spoke of? And Valya ain't hearing none of that. Valya ain't hearing none of that. Because, I mean, she is the zealot of zealots. She's a mother superior. Do you see what I'm saying? She believes in what Raquel said to her and her interpretation of what's to come. She says, Valya says, you forget I'm the one that Raquel asked for as she lay dying. I shall see the burning truth. I think I know what she wanted. Valya ain't gonna let y'all ruin this for her. Even if it means ignoring logic. Valya said, I am the holy one. I am the blessed one. I am the prophesy. I am the interpreter of the prophecy. I was blessed by Raquel. Girl, you host, y'all ain't messing with me. And I'm like, girl, Valya, your wig slipping. Your wig is slipping. Now, she tries to comfort Kasha by saying, like, why don't you just stay here for the night, rest your head. We got some pillows. We done fluffed up the pillows and everything. We didn't have, everything you need, sis. We didn't cleaned out the bathroom. Like, we didn't made a space for you in the guest room. Like, just stay here. We must put a sister on the throne. And this is the marriage that makes it possible. So you're gonna have to go back tomorrow, but you can stay here tonight. And Tula is escorting Kasha away, like, yeah, girl, let's go, cause she crazy. This lady crazy. Tula's like, girl, I see exactly what you're saying, but girl, she mother superior. I can't really do nothing. Like, she crazy. So we're at this wedding, right? And here walks this boy, this 9-year-old boy. Walks in this 9-year-old boy. Like, wow, this society is way too far into the future to still be doing stuff like this. To still how many thousands of years into the future? Y'all are too advanced to still be doing stuff like this. I'm sure aliens looking at our society right now saying that. Y'all too advanced to be doing stuff like this. But anyway, the princess comes out in her red dress. Her mama smiling like she ain't getting married to a 9-year-old. Like, it's just, oh my gosh. Anyway, back to Valya and Tula. Tula's like, girl, you can't just be dismissing everybody who disagree with you, girl. Like, oh my gosh. Like, you taking players off the board just because they have a difference in opinion. Do you really want blind allegiance? And Valya's like, yes, that's exactly what I want. What you think? How you think I got here? What are you talking about? Of course that's what I want. Valya then says, it's so unlike Kasha to leave her post. And Tula's like, girl, that's what I'm saying to you. Like, that's what I'm saying to you. Why not just check what she's talking about? Just see if the princess is truly the one we should put all our hopes in. And then we switch back to the wedding. The princess is trying to do small talk to this boy, like, my name is Inez. What's your name? What's your name? And the boy's like, but honestly, sis, like, I get you trying to be friendly with me and everything, like, but we don't have to talk. Like, it's really effing weird in here. So how about we just don't talk? My father said that this was just a formality. Anyway, let's just eat this pomegranate that's been baking in the sun underneath this, window for how long? Hope it ain't nasty. Let's just eat this pomegranate and call it a day, bro. Like, oh my gosh, I really like that kid. I really like that the kid was like, I'm not going to sit up here with you adults and act like this ain't weird. Like, please stop trying me. Please stop talking to me. Let's do this ceremony and get it over with. And I'm just like, yeah, girl, y'all are too advanced, like I said, to still be doing this stuff with kids. Nasty. Y'all nasty. I don't care. There could be a treaty. There could be all kind of other agreements. But weddings, I don't know. That will always be weird to me. Anyway, real quick, I had to mention this moment because this Harkonnen Duke is making a fool of himself in front of the king, talking about whale seed. I find this so interesting, that they are getting ignored at court or whatever, given, how the Harkonnen house is regarded in history, and given the fact that they are playing the Game of Thrones with one hand tied behind their back because Valya, as Mother Superior, has not yet given them a Bene Gesserit advisor of their own. So he's sitting over here in front of the emperor talking about whale seed and all types of whales and stuff. And of course, I'm sure that is some kind of resource, but like, as compared to Spice, I'm sure he's just like, girl, can you get out of my face? And that's exactly what he does. He's just like, please move. So the boy is playing with something in his pocket. The princess asked him what he has. And when he brought it out, I thought it was a bomb or something, like something explosive. And I was in my head, I was like, that's kind of weird. Because like, why would you go through all this trouble to have this wedding, to set up this agreement, and then just to want a place in the palace, right? To want a wing in the palace, but then just blow it up, like, blow up the palace. Like, I was like, that's kind of crazy. Y'all could have just blown it up without doing all this stuff, but whatever. Either way, that's what I was thinking. But it was actually a thinking machine, which is forbidden, as the Empress says. I mean, this kid sets off the entire wedding, has the guards on alert. Desmond is ultimately the one who stops the little machine, the little toy that this boy brought. But the Empress is, like I said, she's just, that's forbidden. This is a serious offense. But the Duke of Richesi or whatever, is he the Duke, child? I don't know. This man, you know what I'm talking about, comes and says, oh my gosh, are y'all really afraid of this little toy? His lackadaisical attitude about it compared to everyone else's makes me think that his house is probably knee deep into, the construction of these thinking machines. Obviously, a very, very, very illegal thing to do. Like, there's just no way your kid is walking around with a thinking machine in his pocket. I mean, bringing it to a royal wedding, at the royal wedding, there's just no way he would be walking around with a machine in his pockets if you as a parent or you as his house took the threat of them seriously. So, as much as I want to call this kid dumb, it's like, who's raising him, right? The Empress says to the Duke, you exist because House Carino defeated thinking machines. Now you're bringing them into my house. The Duke says to the Emperor, don't let this ruin our celebration. AKA, don't let this one thing make you miss out on this wedding, AKA this agreement, AKA your fleet of fighters. That's what he said. And everyone's looking at the Emperor like, bro, are you really about to let this slide? And he says, yes, that's exactly what I'm going to do, sis. His people, his own wife, losing respect for him as the seconds pass. Nez, who protected the boy at first, said, girl, once our marriage goes through and you pull something like that, I will stab you myself and I'll get rid of that thing. And like, she definitely will, hun. Just take your power and that's it. So, I mean, it just goes to show you the depth of the offense. So Valya comes back to Tula saying, hey, I checked the archives and Ines is my choice. And, the princess, it's good to go. This is a match that will stabilize the Carino line for centuries. Valya threatens then to remove Kasha from her post unless Tula can get her head straight. Jeez. Desmond and the Emperor talk here. Desmond says, your fleet will help you in Arrakis, but it will do nothing about the growing insurgency within the Imperium. The Emperor tells himself the comforting lie that, oh, it was just an isolated incident. But Desmond said, nah, that's a symptom of a larger problem. More and more people wonder if we shouldn't have discarded the great machines and why only the great houses profit from spice. He's like, they ain't told you this? I thought your coven of witches would have let you know, hun. I call shade, ho. I call shade. The Emperor talks about how he feels the wedding is wrong, but then doesn't call it off, obviously, because he'd lose control of Arrakis. He said, without spice, the great houses would feed me to the worm. And then, speaking of getting fed to the worm, Desmond talked about the attack he experienced and how he shouldn't even be here. How he prayed for the strength to feel nothing. He crawled out of the sand after he was attacked, and felt reborn. And I'm just like, hey, we're dealing with a crazy religious person, one of the most destructive kind of people ever. He said, I was no longer afraid. The gods are listening. He got voices in his head, God's listening, all type of stuff. I'm just like, all right. And then the Emperor said foolishly, he said, though his wife is religious, he isn't. But if he could get out of this wedding, he'd turn into a true believer. And of course, Desmond takes that as a challenge. His crazy self. And it's interesting because this actor also played the same kind of character in Raised by Wolves. It's a show also on HBO, I think. Yeah, if I'm getting that right. So it was just very interesting to see him in the same kind of crazy religious character. Here is the other scene I was talking about that felt kind of Riverdale-y, Teen Wolfy. But essentially we learn here that here is where the princess got impregnated by an Atreides, because Swordmaster was Atreides the whole time. Were we supposed to know that? But I feel like this was a scene where we find out because the bartender had called him by his last name. But yeah, other than that, this scene could have been 1/4 of the length that it was. I don't know. Am I just not getting with their chemistry yet or what? I don't know. It's just... just painfully heterosexual. Anyway, so Leela was talking here to What's-Her-Face and saying that, hey, I know what you said was a lie, but there was still some truth to it. Reverend mothers don't always know our parentage, but even if they did, they would not tell us. And I love how she responds by saying, one way or another, our past always finds us. And then we switch immediately to a shot of Valya, who is staring at her past, who is staring at Rakella, like an image of Rakella. Okay, seems like Desmond or somebody left the truth for the Emperor to see about what happened at the attack here. And okay, let's talk about this scene here, because this kid is still playing with the thinking machine in the middle of the palace. Like I said, I want to call him an idiot, but honestly, it's his family who is dumb. Like, I think they're making those machines, and they have downplayed how horribly they're considered by the rest of society. So now you got this boy playing with what he thinks is a toy when everyone around him wants to kill him for even having the nerve to bring such a machine into the very house that helped defeat these kinds of machines for human beings and helped the human race survive that war, right? So either way, Desmond comes talking to this kid. Of the thinking machine, the kid says, Father says we've come too far to be so strict about such things, or something like that. And I'm like, yeah, of course, because your father was not even gagged that you was bringing this machine into this, like in front of the Emperor and everybody. Like, he wasn't even gagged. So it makes sense that your father's saying that to you. The kid is like, well, there's no war here. Why are you here? Speaking to Desmond. And Desmond's like, I'm fighting against a force that wants to do our thinking for us. But the kid's like, what do you mean? I thought the machine wars ended. The thinking machine wars ended. And he's like, girl, I know, but why are we being controlled again? Obviously referring to the Bene Gesserit. And then he says, that's why I've been given a great power and your sacrifice won't be in vain. And then the kid starts burning up like someone turned a oven on. Like, it was so terrible. Like, y'all are so terrible to children in these kinds of societies, period. But like, you know what I mean? Oh God, it was bad. And it looks like it's taking effort, a lot of effort from Desmond. Now, I don't think it's powers or anything. You know, I think some people might be thinking, well, you know, since he got ate up or trampled by the worm, like Desmond got trampled by the worm, maybe he climbed out of the sand with powers and stuff. Maybe that's the case. But I'm thinking just because it's Dune that it's probably a technology of some kind. I don't know though, because Kasha also starts burning up in the same way. Like, everybody came rushing like, girl, what's the tea? But by then it was too late. So this episode was good, especially for a premiere for a show like this. Like, it could have been really, I don't know. People were, I don't know. I think I saw some reviews, like I said in the beginning of this video, where they're like, "Oh my gosh, it's slow. It's not going to be a spectacle like the movies." But I was not going into this expecting like the same exact things that we got from the movies. I thought it was going to lean exactly into what it is leaning into: the espionage of it all, the political, prowess of it all, the histories. So I mean, I think it's obviously going to evolve into a cool, action-filled, whatever, but full of story, full of betrayal and all that stuff. But like, to me, this was a really strong setup for the season. Let me know what y'all think about this. Thank y'all so much for watching. I'm gonna see how many y'all tune into this, and that will determine on if we're gonna keep these reviews going. So you might want to share this, like this, do what you need to do. Because I need to make sure y'all actually want to watch this. Otherwise, I'm gonna work on something else that y'all actually get into. But let me know what y'all think. Love y'all so much, and I'll catch y'all later. Peace. All right, y'all, make sure that you're going to www.zeraxia.com. When you join the wait list there on the site, you will be the first to be notified when I drop my sequel. Also, you'll immediately get chapter 1 of my upcoming sequel of the upcoming book sent to your email as a PDF. So check that out. Also, this is a different excerpt from my upcoming book, so you definitely want to pause to read if you're trying to get your life. Keep in mind that this upcoming book, the sequel, is following up the first book that is already released called Zeraxia, Wrath of the God King. I released it a few years ago. It was my introduction to writing, fantasy and stuff. So just go easy on me. But either way, as you can see here, it's given 4.9 stars. So yeah, check out Zeraxia, Wrath of the God King while you wait for Zeraxia, The Vengeance of Coldwind, right? And go to Zeraxia.com, sign up, join the wait list, get your free chapter. Thank you so much.